All right, and we are live with another episode of Mentor Minutes. This is just an opportunity for real leaders to ask real questions that are going on in their operations. So if you're tuning in, this is one of the first times you tuned in, drop in down to the comment section. Let me know where you're tuning in from. That's always interesting to know. And if you have a question, a situation, something that's going on at work that you'd like to ask about, go ahead, drop it in the comment section, and we'll go ahead and tackle it from there. This is just an opportunity for everybody to take leadership principles, theories, and put them into practice. I believe that's the best way to learn, and it's a simple way to improve your leadership, and that's what we're looking for in all of these sessions. So while we queue some people up here on the live feed over here on Facebook, I like to handle any questions I didn't get a chance to get to. So we got one from Asifa after the last live session yesterday ended, and I wanted to start off with that one, and that is, how do you affect real organizational change in an operation? And I love that, Asifa. I love great leaders look to be making improvements all the time. That's what your role is. Your role isn't to maintain the status quo. If you want to talk about differences between managers and leaders, that's the role of a manager. If you want to be a leader, you're looking to make improvements. You don't want the status quo. You want things to be better. And so I love the fact, Asifa, that you're looking for that organizational change. The first way to affect that is to actually take one step back. If you're talking, you mentioned in the question about real change and real organizational change, make sure you're making the right changes. And so you see me talk or hear me talk about this an awful lot, and that is engaging your employees and engaging your team to find out what it is that needs to be improved. And I bring up 5 questions all the time, and Asifa, I'd encourage you to ask these questions of your team. What do you see going right in the organization? What do you see going wrong? Where are there opportunities we need to take advantage of? Where are there problems we need to fix? And how can I help you do your job better? The information you get from that will show you where you should be changing. If you want to talk about real change, all right, not stuff that's just done to make everybody look like they're busy, but real change that brings real improvement, talk to the people who are going to be affected by it. This goes for all of you consumer-driven organizations out there. Reach out to your customers and ask them those questions or some variation of those questions. And that's something that is going to help you get the information so that you're not just spinning your wheels. And I know that's the frustration with change out there, is a lot of times change is done for the wrong reasons and you feel like you're working and not going anywhere. Make sure that you have that destination in place. So the second aspect of this, Asifa, if you want to affect real organizational change and you want it to be successful, you again need to talk to the employees. All right, and you need to bring them in to the whole organizational shift and the whole organizational change that is going on. Make sure that they have all of the information on why the change is taking place, what the project plan is going to be, what their work life is going to look like after the change has taken place. Ask them questions. Ask them what concerns them. The reason that so many changes fail is because people don't like change. Change is a risk versus the status quo. Even if their status quo isn't particularly good, change is a risk. And you tackle that risk with information. So have some open forum sessions about concerns that they might have, questions that they might have. And that'll bring up a lot of this. And once you fed them that information, they're more easily and more apt to be able to jump on board and start championing the change and being a part of that change, and that's what's going to make it successful in the end. So 2 parts. If you want to affect real, and I keep making these little quote symbols here, but it's important. If you want to make real changes to your operation, first, make sure that you've engaged the employees or the stakeholders, customers are included in that, with where the improvements need to be made. Where are their problems? Where are their opportunities? The second thing is to really commit to feeding your team information. From that information will come more feedback for you, but it'll lead to a bigger likelihood that the change that you put into place is going to be successful in the end. So as we've had people jump onto this session, if you have any questions, any struggles, anything you've been dealing with as far as leadership is concerned, any management questions that you have, go ahead, drop down into the comment section. I'll go ahead and answer those. And I always encourage everybody out there, if you have comments in regards to a particular question, feel free to drop it in the comment section. I don't have all the answers, and all of us are smarter than just one of us is, that's for sure. So I will field, I got some questions to get back to here, but I will field one from Janelle who's chimed in already. And that is, I work hard, do 3 people's jobs, and want on day shift instead of on nights as they continue to overlook me, although I work hard and works extra shifts every time. They ask, what should I do? Well, the first thing, and this goes, and you'll see me spread this out to everybody who's tuning in as well, Janelle. So great question. But for anybody who's looking to make a change in their position within an organization, whether that's a promotion, whether that's a different shift, whether that's a lateral move to learn something, whether that's taking on extra responsibilities, the first thing that you want to do is go to your boss and express interest. Now, you've probably already done this, Janelle, but it is just a basic background thing. Hey, I'm really interested in moving on day shift. What needs to take place for me to do that? What do you need to see me do to do that? Now, it's entirely possible, Janelle, that in your situation, you're so valuable that they don't want to move you on to day shift because they'd have to put 2 people onto the night shift or 3 people to do your job. So that may be part of it. And it may be that, you're so valuable to us. Okay. Once you know what the reasoning is, then you can look to take steps to address it. So it may be that you are training the people around you so that you're not indispensable. Okay? Come up with cheat sheets, with checklists, with other things so it's easy for people to step into your role. That's the first. The second thing. First thing is make sure that your boss knows that you're interested. Second thing is to make sure that it's easy and that you're replaceable as far as this shift is concerned. The third thing that I want you to do is look for those unspoken things. It may be, Janine, great to see you here. It may be that your role, it may be that the people that have moved from night shift to day shift have some sort of common element. It may be a positive element, it may be a negative element. I don't know what it is. But start reading the tea leaves. Look for those common traits that those people have. It may be something that's unspoken that even in the case of your boss or your manager, they can't relate to you. Oh, we need you to keep doing a good job. Okay, so look for those opportunities and look to make those changes. The second, third, fourth, whatever I'm up to as far as steps are concerned on this is I want you to go back to your manager. So after you have talked to your manager about your interest in moving up in the organization and moving to a different shift, taking on a different responsibility, the answer is almost always, hey, keep doing a good job and your time will come. That's the most common answer. What you want to do is then follow up 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later. So if you've already expressed interest, it may be time to go back to them and say, hey, just so you know, I am still interested in moving on to day shift. Is there anything that I can do to make that happen? All right. This is that difficult spot where you're relying on somebody to give you some feedback. And that's why I say it's important to look for those common traits in those other individuals. And that'll help kind of lead the way for what you need to do and how you need to approach it. So I hope that's helpful. Follow up here, Janine, Janelle, if you have any kind of follow-ups on that. I am caught up. If you have any questions, this is a great place to ask those questions. Drop down into the comment section. We're just taking real world questions, real world situations, real world struggles from real leaders and talking through that, because I think that's the best way to take those principles and those theories that we always read about, is to learn how to put them into practice and find those examples of how we can do that. And so that's what I'm looking for. So if you have a question, I'm caught up. So in real time, I will go ahead and answer it for you. So in the meantime, I do want to handle one that I got offline on this, and then keeping it anonymous for an obvious reason in this case, and that is dealing with a boss who doesn't listen to other ideas. And so this is one of the most common frustrations that people have with their leaders. And this is a good thing for you as an up-and-coming leader and as a constantly growing leader to remember is those things that you dislike in your boss or in other bosses are a warning for you. And so in this case, the boss doesn't listen. The most common reason that a boss doesn't listen is the same reason that you don't listen to your employees. You just don't have the time. So somebody tries to grab you, but you're heading off to a meeting. You've got to jump on a call. And so you're constantly under pressure from other commitments. And so be mindful of when you are asking your boss to listen to you or to listen to your ideas. So be mindful of approaching them at the right time, not when they're rushing out of the office, obviously in the direction of something. That's a horrible time to approach them. So look for that timing. But the other way is to get their attention. Okay? So I've got other things to worry about as a leader. Why is what you're saying mattering to me? And so oftentimes you have to spell it out. Why is what you're saying a priority? And what you do is you make sure that you're clear on what the priorities of your leader are. What are they constantly talking about? What is their boss all up in their Kool-Aid about? What are they, what reports do they put together? What numbers do they track? What is a priority for them? It could be increasing sales. It could be decreasing cost. It could be service levels. It could be invoices processed. It could be training. It could be customer service scores. Whatever it is that's important to them, what you want to do is phrase what you're saying in a way that addresses one of their concerns. And what that does is that stops them in their tracks. Well, hold on a second. I've got a lot going on, but this is what I'm really concerned about. You've got an idea on how to improve customer satisfaction scores? I'm all ears. And so when you're talking in those terms of what is important to them, they will make the time to listen to you. And your ideas are way more apt to be heard when it's addressing a need or a concern of theirs. It takes some practice because you oftentimes have to get creative where something that is affecting overall team morale has to be phrased in a way that addresses customer satisfaction as well. Hey, happy employees equal happy customers. There's that old adage, but very few organizations actually put that into practice and do things about it. But that's the sort of creativity that you have to get used to and used to dealing with. Brian, good to see you here as well. Pam as well. If anybody's got any questions out there, I'm almost caught up all the way. So if you have questions, I'll answer them here in real time, but it's great to see everybody on there. So making sure that you are talking about something that's important to them, you're doing it at the right time. But the other thing is persistence. All right. We talked about this as far as getting a promotion. You have to bring it up over and over again. Otherwise, you're just going to get the same answer of, well, just keep doing what you're doing. You're not going to be told that you need to work a special project. You have to show that persistence. And so if you haven't gotten your boss to listen to your great idea this time around, put a note on your calendar, in Outlook, in wherever, whatever you use, put a Post-it note up that 2 or 3 weeks from now, you're going to bring it up again. And 3 to 6 weeks from now, you're going to bring it up again. There are a lot of times, Edna, Hassam, good to see you guys here. There are a lot of times where the timing isn't right as far as the organization. It may be that there's a huge push in a particular area. I know I've dealt with that in my leadership career. I know you probably have as well, where somebody has a good idea, you like the idea, but the timing just isn't right at all. And so make sure that you're talking about it. And Luke, I'll tell you right now, you threw up Dale Carnegie. And yesterday I talked about books that I love. I recommend for everybody to read. Top of the list is How to Win Friends and Influence People, because leadership is all about that human element. And FYI, I'm considering doing a book review and a book overview in one of these sessions coming up. And that would be the first book that I would tackle. So still kind of figuring that out there. But again, you're going to want to talk in their terms and hit them again over and over again until you get through. It may be that something gets tabled for a year in certain organizations where it's a great idea because there's other priorities. There's often a very legitimate reason, not necessarily one that works out in the end to be the right reason, but there's often lots of legitimate reasons why that takes place. Brian has the next question for us. And again, I'm taking on this in real time. So any questions anybody has, go ahead and drop them down, and we'll go ahead and get those on right now. But Brian's next question, what are the signs that a manager wants you to take a leadership role for a managerial role? The most common thing that comes up is anticipation. Okay. So anticipating is more of a leadership trait than a manager trait. And I hate to kind of separate those two because really leadership and management in this day and age have really come together and the traits are very, very similar between the two. But when somebody wants you to take on more of a leadership role, what they're often doing is they're asking you to anticipate concerns, can anticipate problems ahead of time. If I need a manager just needs to do what I say. A leader needs to anticipate what's best for the organization and take steps to do that. And so one of the things that they ask, A, could you have seen that ahead of time? The other thing as far as anticipation is concerned, Brian, is ideas. Leaders love solutions, all right? You know that everybody brings you problems in your leadership role. That's what happens. You know, they say the stuff rolls downhill. Well, in that case, the leader's at the bottom of the valley, that's for sure. But what happens is when you bring solutions to them, this is another great way to get your boss to listen to you is to provide that solution. That's what we talked about, their priorities. But they're looking for you to anticipate problems, anticipate opportunities, and bring solutions to them. That's usually when their conversation with your manager starts shifting in that direction. That's when you know they want you to take on more of a leadership role. Now, flipping that entirely, this is exactly what you as leaders should be doing for your teams. You should be asking them to anticipate problems, anticipate opportunities, to bring you solutions. And when you see people doing that, the way that you bring this into the conversation is you recognize it. That was great. Brian brought to me he anticipated that we were going to have a shortfall next week in such and such area, and we're able to address it ahead of time. Great job, Brian. Or, we have, customer satisfaction scores that have been doing really well, but Brian brought a different idea for us to improve them even more. And so that's what you want to do as a leader is you want to foster more leadership in your ranks. There's an old adage, and I can't remember who it's attributed to, and that is great leaders don't create more followers, they create more leaders. And that's a great way to do that is to talk about anticipation, to talk about ideas, to talk about creating solutions with your team, not just with yourself. Okay. Another question that I got offline through Facebook messaging was in regards to delegation. And it's, what are the mistakes that most people make in regards to delegation? And I'll talk about the first one that really pops up in there. Shirley, great to see you here. The biggest mistake that people make in regards to delegation is that they are delegating the wrong things. What often happens is something random comes across your desk. Your plate's full, all right? Every leader's plate is overflowing. But something random comes across and you don't feel like you have time. And so you pass it off to somebody else to do. The problem is the investment of even the 30 seconds, the 60 seconds that it took for you to hand that off is gone. What you want to look to do from a delegation perspective is you want to look for things that are easy and simple, so you don't spend a lot of time training, but that are recurring or frequent. Because then when you invest the time in somebody to teach them how to do that or to build up a skill in that particular area, that's something that pays dividends down the road. And I call this the positive feedback loop of delegation. You take weekly reports, monthly reports, and you teach somebody how to do it. And hey, it might take you 15 to 30 minutes to do it, and it might take you 2 hours to train somebody. But in a week, you've now gained that time back in a month. Or if it's a weekly report, you gain that time back in a month. If it's a monthly report, you gain that time back in 4 months. And after that, it's all gravy. Keep working on the whole plate analogy that I have here. So the biggest mistake that I see is that leaders are delegating the wrong thing. They're delegating things that are complicated and infrequent. And what you want to do is you want to delegate the simple things that are on your task list and the frequent things that are on your task list. That way you get a return on that effort that you put in, and then you can use that return to start working on the more complicated and frequent, or the complicated and infrequent tasks that you have that pop up. But work on those simple and those frequent things, and that can be a huge help for you. So I'm actually caught up on the questions that are online. So if you have any questions, any concerns, any situations that you've kind of been struggling with, this is a great time to ask them. I'll answer it here in real time. In the meantime, I will throw out there, I have put all of these sessions up on a podcast format. So on iTunes and out on SoundCloud, you'll see a little launch contest that I'm doing. I'm experimenting with my first contest in this regard, and it's kind of a big deal. So look for that on my Facebook feed. But if you want to, and I'd really appreciate it, head over and sign up and subscribe to Mentor Minutes with Cameron Morsey on SoundCloud or on iTunes. And that way you can take these sessions with you, and it's just something that you have that gets your mind thinking about leadership, how you can make improvements, and how the topics that we're talking about apply in your world. And as you exercise your brain in these areas, your leadership will strengthen. It's just like going to the gym. The more reps you put in, the more time you put on the treadmill, the more results that you're going to get. And that's really my purpose behind these and so much of the work that I do out there. So last call for questions. Otherwise, I am going to sign off on this Friday afternoon here in Las Vegas. Look for me. I'll be looking to do a session tomorrow morning Pacific time. Don't know exactly when, but I'm looking to mix up some of the timing on these live sessions so that I can hit different parts of the world. I know in particular Asia is getting left out of my mid-afternoon, mid-morning sort of sessions that I have over here Pacific Standard Time. So I'll be looking to mix those up a little bit more to hit those different shifts. Anybody that's working the night shift will have a little bit more access perhaps to it. So anyways, appreciate you all, and I will be talking to you later. Take care. Bye-bye.